Welcome to part 3 of my conversation with Jackie Gainey. In this final episode, we dive into how to stop performing and start living from a place of truth. We talk about breaking free from shame, letting ourselves be seen, and the kind of healing that can ripple through generations when a woman finds her voice. Thinking of like what you're getting to experience now and a desire and this dream that you've had of starting this business,
Yes.
right? Like, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that in regards to like any guilt or the shame that you felt before and what you've done to be able to get to this place of saying, I'm doing it and I'm taking it step by step, and you've gotten farther than you've ever had before.
Yes. You know? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would love to. So I grew up, my dad was an entrepreneur, and so he started a business when I was 10, lost his corporate job, started a business, and then pretty much from the time I was 10 until today, he has worked himself very hard. And I can remember many, many times, like we wouldn't see him for several days because he would work so many hours trying to get this business up and running. And so I found that it was probably about 10 years ago is when I was like, oh, I one day I would love to have my own business and I would love to do some type of staging or design, right?
Yeah.
And even in high school, I took an interior design class and I fell in love. And I was like, I want to be an interior designer. Like, I want to go to college for that. And just through my misguided parents' advice, I didn't, and then I ended up doing some other things for a while. But yeah, it was probably about 10 years ago. I got laid off from a job that I'd had for some time. And I was like, oh, I would love to do this. But I just found that I kept hitting against this like overwhelming fear. Mm-hmm. Like it would literally make my stomach sick. And I just couldn't, even when I bought I was like, I'll do a certification because then I'll feel a little bit more confident about like, that might help with my imposter syndrome, right? Yeah. And so I was like, I'll pay for this course. And we had the money to pay for it. It wasn't an issue, but I just remember feeling that like, I'm not worthy. Mm-hmm. Like this is a very expensive, if I don't get a return on investment very quickly with this, then I'm not worthy. Yeah. Like this isn't worth it. So so working through all of that, we move here and it really was very strong once we had our son, and then even stronger once we had our daughter. I just was like, I really want to do this. But that sickness in my stomach, it would not let me do anything. Like I just couldn't get past the barrier. And it's funny because you asked that question. I'm like, oh, just a few months ago, I noticed that their sickness is not there anymore. Yeah. Like when I go to do these things, I don't feel that. I mean, it was just like this tightness, this like, I felt like I wanted to throw up. Like I just wanted it. Ugh, it was just icky.
That's awful.
Yes, to feel. But it's been really cool to see how God has, I think where the fear has come from is watching my dad give up all of, he was providing for the family, but he sacrificed all of the relationship with us.
Yeah.
Right. Like at the expense of his family, he went to provide for us, but he doesn't have a family.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I think the fear got met with that. Like and I think culturally we hear this a lot with entrepreneurs and starting your own business. It's, oh, you got to work 100 hours a week to get it off and running. Like that's just the price you pay for the first 6 months to a year, 3 years, 5 years. And then it just keeps getting extended,
Yeah, exactly. It never ends.
Yeah, it never ends. So I was like, oh my gosh, I have this desire to do this. I feel it. Like it's this deep desire that I have that I want to go and do this. It comes from even being in high school. And yet I felt like I was met with this reality of like, but it's going to cost me all of what I really desire, of something else I desire as well, which is to have connection and relationship with my kids and my husband, you know? So I just couldn't get past it. And it wasn't until I was able to name, where the fear was coming from and why it was there. And then it was like, oh, okay. And then starting to uncover myself, like, this is a true desire and it's okay to have it. And it's not going to look the way everyone else thinks it should look. And then, like you said, then just being able to see how God moves and like, God, I'm just going to take this next step and I don't know what's going to happen. And I was just talking to Kevin about this the other night. I was like, yeah, it's been crazy to see, like, I said, I'm going to do this. And so I did this part. And then I said, I'm going to do this, and not really knowing where the first business is going to come from.
Yeah.
But just knowing I'm taking the steps to get there and like, God, you're leading me here. And that's it.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That is so, I didn't know like the full back story on it either. Like I've heard like little parts that you've shared, but it makes sense of, I don't know, it's just helpful to hear for me the fear, because fear for me is like a huge, nasty, like that's a huge bully for me of just trying to get me into submission of like mostly what other people want me to do.
Same.
Disregard from like what I actually want to do or what God's calling me to do. And so it's helpful to hear that. And even just to recognize, okay, this fear, it's the fear of, well, look at what you experienced with your dad. And if you pursue this, that's what your life is going to look like. Instead of like thinking of what Chip talks about, there's wisdom, which is the gift in fear.
Yes.
And applying that wisdom, which is exactly what you've done as you've been able to acknowledge it and learn how to work through it, of it does not have to look like that, and it won't. So here's the boundaries, here's the parameters that I'm going to set up so I don't fall into that. That's not like a default of what it has to happen or the only option. It can look completely different, and it will, because you have the wisdom to apply to this. And fear can be that like, oh, the indicator of, hey, it's feeling like it's going to go this route as like it did with your dad. But then you get to apply the wisdom like, oh, okay, thanks for telling me that's what you're afraid of.
Yes.
I want to remind you, here's what I have in place. Or maybe I need to add this, this, and this.
Yes.
To help maintain the goals that I have and the multiple desires I have beyond just work. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's been cool too, to see how like just in the healing journey that God has had me on is how, like what you just said with multiple desires made me think of that, like how he has given me multiple desires. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's given it to me in a way, like, because I feel like our culture just focuses so much on career. It's career, it's career, it's career. Everything is around career. You live based on your career. You raise your kids based on your career. Like everything is around the career.
Right.
So you should have one desire, which is career. And I feel like it's kind of back to what we were saying earlier of like, it's because all of our needs are tied up in this career.
Oh, gosh, yes.
That's
such a good point.
And so then everything's like, we got to be all in on this, because if not, truly our needs don't get met because we don't have a healthy balance of that.
Yeah.
And so, but it's God's given me these multiple desires, I feel like to show me like, this is how many needs you have, and you're going to have desires in all of these areas.
Yeah.
And then it calls me to, forces me to trust him in that. You've given me these multiple desires and I can't see, because of our culture, how I can do it.
Yes.
But
oh my God.
You're going to have to write it.
Yeah.
You'll
have to write it and
lay it out.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly. And it's hard to trust and to take those steps because there are not like, I don't know. I haven't thought too long and hard about it, but as far as like right now, it's hard to think of someone that's modeled it for me.
Yes.
So it's really hard to imagine then. And but it's so true. It's like, I don't know. I just was thinking of when you're talking about the career, right? Like we're taught and conditioned like, oh, all our needs should be met in this career. Well, the career is a thing, and things can't actually fulfill us, and no one person can either. So if we look to our kid, they cannot and they will not fulfill us, and same with our spouse. So that's not how it works. But just that thing that's trying to get to the core of who we are. But I don't know. I love that picture of. Or that just thinking of like we can have and we are meant to have multiple desires.
Yes.
Which is making me think of something that I would love for you to talk about, because you do a far better job explaining this, and it's something new that I hadn't heard about. But as far as all the stuff we're talking about with needs, feelings, the guilt, the shame, all the stuff, like as moms, as humans, I really hate the phrase, like we have a cup, you have to fill up your cup, you can't pour out from an empty cup. I really hate it because I know it's true, but it's so overused, and I don't think that we have one cup. And I really love your analogy of multiple buckets.
Yes.
And so if you could just share a little bit more on that and what that is and why it's important.
Yeah. I feel like it's something that God's showing me, and it's like been a slow process, of like, I feel like he's still crafting the picture is what I'm saying. But that like we're all made, and it's probably our needs is really what the buckets are, is like and maybe they're even grouped in categories of needs, but like there's these relational needs, physical needs, emotional needs, mental needs. Like we all have these groups, these buckets of needs that need to be filled up in order that we could offer that to somebody else, And so it's learning to pay attention to that. Like when we're not showing up in particular areas where we want to be, like, what is it that I'm needing to fill this bucket, And then that allows us, I hesitate to say this in a way because I don't want it to sound like we show up as our best selves, because I don't think that's always the goal, in relationship. But I think it's the goal to show up authentically as ourselves, So it's, I think a big part of that is just being able to name like what goes in that bucket. Like this is the needs that I have in this bucket. And this is why I'm feeling this way. This is why it's coming out this way. And then being able to be honest and open and vulnerable with, other people to say, I'm empty here. Yeah. And I really need, you and I talked about this a lot. Like I need support, lots of support. Yeah. Yeah. And so what I'm needing from you as my friend is I need support in this particular area, in my marriage. Like, could you please come alongside me and support me in this? Because I'm not finding a lot of other people out there that would do that, or whatever. But yeah, I feel like, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Like it's just getting those buckets, paying attention to them, I think is the big thing. So we know why we're showing up the way we show up. Yes. And then being able to honestly and openly and vulnerably communicate that with other people, particularly our kids and our spouses, because we're in such close proximity with them all the time. Yes. But being able to do that really helps, I think, to develop intimate relationship. And that,
So true. And I think it helps to have each of those named, specifically like the physical, emotional, mental, like spiritual, relational. Like there's many of these distinct buckets, because saying that there's one cup for all of this, it's like, well, I'm sorry, but especially different seasons, I need more of one of some of those than others. I need, or some of those buckets can stay filled up longer than the other ones, depending on the season I'm in. Yes. And the thing that I do keep coming back to is like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how much support I need. Yes. How much. And it looks different in different areas of my life. Yes. But to then pay attention and be like, okay, again, the symptoms, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm feeling afraid, I'm feeling stressed out, I'm feeling X, Y, and Z. Those are the symptoms of like what bucket is empty right now, or run dry, or it's low. And then what do I need to do to go fill it up? Yes. Yes. That's just been super helpful ever since you had shared that. I was like, oh my gosh, that is gold. Like I much prefer that over a stupid cup. Yeah. Because to your point, because sometimes you'll do something. I don't know if you feel so, but like I'll do something. I'm like, oh, like with the cup analogy. Oh, I should be feeling grateful because I was able to do X, Y, Z. But like to your point, when we're not specific enough, then we're not necessarily meeting the need that we have. We're maybe meeting a need we had last week or last month or last year. Oh my gosh. Versus just that specific, like you said, the need for support. That's what I think I'm learning too, is like how much support we need generally in life, and how much we choose not to get it. Yes. Like how culturally we're so focused on independence when, like our emotions are supposed to link us to another person, and we've shoved those down. So we no longer have links. And then we're just driving forward as just our own person. I don't know. Very, isolating, like just it is exactly that has been like that sense of independence, and the message that we get within our culture, it makes it so hard to reach out. And even just asking for help, there's so much shame that comes with asking for help. I shouldn't need help, I should be able to do it on my own, all of that, when it's actually impossible. And then we feel like we're drowning, and we wonder why we are miserable, basically. And I just really like what you said of these emotions that come up when we don't stuff them and suppress them. It is meant to be a link of connection to reach out, but we also have to find those safe people that we can reach out to.
Yes.
So I think that's been a really big game changer for myself is having you as a friend and having like, you know, a few other safe people that I can be honest with and share with, where I'm not going to get fixed or advised or shamed, you know, but just to feel heard and be like, it's okay to be drowning, or, you know, I need the support. I need to be able to work through this and connect, because that's the only way to really break out of the isolation.
Yes.
You know?
And just sometimes being able, I don't know about you, but like when we talk, like just saying it out loud, I have so many light bulb moments because I'm like, oh, like in my head, this is not how this was going. And then you and I talk and I'm like, oh, just saying it out loud, I see it differently. And then when I hear your perspective on it, I'm like, oh, okay, even more, you know, so it's just this, and we talked about this before, but like that verse, like praying without ceasing is not, I think it was one of the workshops we went to, I can't remember, but they were saying it's not about like, oh, Lord Jesus, that praying without ceasing. It's actually in connection with other people when we're honest and open and vulnerable. That is the praying without ceasing. God says, where two or more are gathered, I am there.
Yeah.
So like it's in that when there's honesty and vulnerability, he's there, and that's the continual speaking, you know, to him.
Yeah.
And he's continually speaking to us through each other.
Oh my gosh. It's so good, because I think that's a huge missing link, and that's a huge area. And I'm speaking from that experience because it's taken a lot of risking and putting myself out there and trying and be like, whoa, I got like the whiplash from people, right? And be like, like I'm scared to do it again. But just like, at the workshop, and one of the things, her saying that it's not just honesty, because this is where I found myself is like, okay, I'm going to be honest with God. All right, God, you know, and I'm journaling or I'm writing this stuff down or I'm telling him. But he's like, no, it's you have to be honest with yourself. You have to be honest with me and other people.
Yes.
And that's really scary, but that's also where we can find healing, we can find freedom, and just know we're not alone. Like, I think that's what's been so helpful is sharing the like as life goes on, or like, oh my gosh, I really messed up big time, or this is what I'm struggling with, or I'm feeling really angry, X, Y, and Z. Being able to just share that with you and be as honest as I can has helped tremendously. Like, it has lifted like 10,000 pound weights off of my shoulders.
Same. Yeah, because same. So many times throughout the day, I'm like, oh, I just need to talk to her for 10 minutes.
I swear, it has been a game changer. And I think what's been so unique in getting, like, when I first met you even, was like, oh my gosh, like she gets me. Like, she understands.
Yes.
And it was this like mutual sharing. It wasn't like it wasn't one-sided, and it wasn't this like, I know everything, you know, where like you've been able to share things that you've learned, or things that you think would help. But it's a lot of just like, hey, I this is really hard. Or I have struggled with this, or this was my experience. And that alone has helped so much.
And I think it's like, as you're talking, I'm thinking, I'm able to trust your wisdom and your heart and your perspective so much more, because I know that you're coming from a place of vulnerability. You know what I mean? Like, I can trust that and have been able to trust that so much in our friendship, because I don't feel this performance coming through, you know, like, oh, she's got to figure out, like I share something with you and that I'm struggling with, and you feel like you have to go Google all the answers, you know, like, it's like, I know that if you don't know, you're like, wow, that's hard. I don't know, you know, but if you do, you know what I mean? Like, it just helps me to trust you more, and knowing that, because I think that's often the thing in motherhood. And that was hard when I quit my job, is like, you would have at work, obviously everyone's like focused on work. So you don't get too much into the motherhood stuff. But then when I quit and would go to these mom groups and things, and we talk about this a lot, but like feeling it wasn't an enjoyable experience for me. Like, there's such a facade.
Yes.
I can literally see that there is a brokenness, and that there is a bearing of self.
Yeah.
But yet there wasn't this honesty about it.
Yes.
You know?
My gosh. Yes.
And so then trying to communicate with this wall and trying to find people who were willing to be there honestly and vulnerably, it was very hard.
Yeah.
But almost doesn't exist.
Almost does not.
Yeah.
Yes.
So very sad.
It is sad. And it's really unfortunate because it's not, we first of all don't stay that way, right? We will get better or worse.
Yes.
And if we don't find people and a place to be able to, even beyond counseling, like if there isn't a friend
Yes.
to share honestly with, we will get worse. Like we will become even more detached and disconnected. We'll become even more of a shell of ourselves. We don't stay the same.
No.
And it's so unfortunate because going, like for myself, going to multiple mom groups, you were at one of those. And so it almost doesn't exist, but you were one of those people. Whereas like, oh my gosh, okay. Because I would put it out. I'd be like, okay, I'm going to share about my, my panic attack that happened. That was debilitating. Like my husband had to pick me up from Chick-fil-A and all the things like, and then it's crickets, right? So it's just not, it's like, but I'm really struggling here. Mm-hmm. I'm having a really hard time, but who can just be honest too?
Yes.
Like who can just be honest about how hard this is? Because if we can't be honest about it, we can't get better.
No.
Like it's not going to get better.
No.
And it is so sad. There needs to be more spaces and more people who can just honestly share and not feel like, oh, no, my defenses are up and I've built these walls and I've picked up, my perfectionist shield over here. And so we don't go there and I don't share and and you're bringing this up for me. So I'm going to fix you and suggest, you take a pill or what, or read this book or read the podcast, which all that could help. But like, that's not what I need in that moment.
No, I just need to be heard. Could you just let me speak? Yeah,
exactly.
And I think as you're talking, it made me think like, it's just moving out of like whether they've worked or not, it doesn't matter, but it's moving out of one role and moving into another. So I'm just going to pick up this other role and I'm going to put myself here and I'm still not going to change who I am.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I don't know. I keep thinking of like picking, you have one shield.
Yes.
And that could be the role of work. And then that drops a little. I'm going to pick up another one because I can't risk being exposed.
Yes.
And if I'm exposed, I then have to look at who I am.
Yes.
I have to look at the core of who I am, how I'm made. And that's terrifying. I was also likely shamed for that growing up. And so I don't know what to do.
Yes.
And I don't know how to go there and nobody else is talking about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I found it to be particularly disheartening. I don't know why, but I guess I thought that since I just thought wrong. I think I thought that since I gave up my career to be with my kids, that other girls who gave up careers or not, doesn't matter, but like gave up time, right, to be with their kids, gave time to be with their kids, that then we would have this bond and there would be this connection and it would just so not like at all. Yeah. I was very disheartened and very quickly learned that mom's groups would not be my thing.
Oh man, I know.
Which is sad.
It is
because,
so sad.
But I don't want to go and talk about diaper,
oh my gosh,
brands and all the superficial crap I don't care about. Like I want to go and like, this is very hard. I'm at home with these kids all the time. Like, what do you do to bring you out, you know?
Yes, exactly. Because I think all of that extra, I want to say like quote unquote dumb stuff, which I know that's how I feel about it too, because it's such a distraction. Yes. I think it's just so distracting. Like, oh, if I go do this thing, or if I look up this method and what kind of bottle do you use and where do you get the whole, which that stuff it's okay to have some of that stuff matter. But if that's the main topic and the main things we're thinking of, it's a distraction. It's trying to keep us from looking at the things that actually matter. And where so much focus is on our kids, if it's almost like we don't exist or we don't get to exist. Yes. Yet if we would take the time to address the issues, the struggles, the feelings, whatever is coming up that we're dealing with, it will transform our parenting. It will transform our kids. Yes. And it will transform generations.
Yes. It's almost like getting like behind the mom role. Like
Yes.
it's
Oh
not
my
it
gosh.
shouldn't be a mom's group. It should be a girls group, you know, like,
Yeah.
and it's taking the mom role off and getting behind to the woman that is the mom,
Yeah.
you know,
Wow.
is really what it should be versus like mom's group.
Yeah.
But I think I think we all have this desire to like, I'm going to get in connection with other moms and then this will help me. I'll get support and they'll help me, teach me to navigate this. But yeah, so oftentimes what it ends up being is this comparison of like, well, I use this one and, you know, I home make all the baby food and then we only eat organic and like all this
Yes.
stuff that just really, it ends up just shaming the person there who isn't able to do that.
Exactly.
And that has benefited nobody.
Nobody.
You know, and if you're going home thinking, well, I'm the one, all the things we talked about, I've checked off all those boxes. Well, again, you're still disconnected from yourself and you're disconnected from other people.
Right.
So you've gained nothing from the conversation other than a few moments of arrogance and pride.
Yes.
You know?
Exactly. And it's then you're measuring yourself based on doing these things, and then as soon as another mom comes in who's doing one more thing, like all of that's deflated.
Yes.
So it's your value is based on chasing this and like you're having to constantly chase after your value and your worth and prove it. That's the word I'm looking for. It's like you're having to prove it by doing all of this.
Yes. And if you get into a tough season and you're not able to keep your checklist going, then what happens to you?
Exactly.
And I think that's
Yeah.
that's what often happens.
It is. And that's why, like, I thought, okay, joining a mom's group, great. Like, because we understand what it's like and how hard it is. But so surely this is a place where I can come and bring these things to you. Like, and I know majority of motherhood for me has been very, very, very hard seasons where there's no way like that I could ever think of making my own baby food.
No.
I had barely any energy to go for a walk in the neighborhood, let alone like making something from scratch. So I had come in thinking like, okay, great. Surely these women, they know, but then this stuff isn't talked about. And so that's why I'm like this, like I wanted, because we talk honestly about this. I'm like, that's why I wanted to be able to share some of this stuff today.
Yes.
So as we're wrapping up, I just want to see, what would you say to a mom who feels invisible and exhausted, but doesn't know where to start?
I mean, I would say the first place I would start is learning to pause, like in those moments where you're feeling those feelings, you know, where our knee-jerk reaction might be to cope, you know, pick up your phone. I mean, I see this all the time with moms at the park where you can almost, you can spot it a mile away. Like something comes up in them and then the phone comes out, you know, and it's like this direct correlation or, But so to just learn to pause when you feel those feelings coming up and learning to get curious in a compassionate way of like, what is this saying to me? What is this emotion I'm feeling? Naming it. Where does this come from? Like where, because I feel like at least for me, that's where it all kind of started, was learning to do that.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do it at first in a nice way to yourself, like, and to be compassionate, because our instinct, I think, is to shame it away. Like, I shouldn't be feeling this. This is wrong. And I think all emotions are good and they tell us something. And so if we can just learn to listen to them and name them, they can indicate what we need. So I would say that's the big one, is just learning to pause and be kind and name what's going on inside and not reaching for the coping.
My gosh. Yes.
Is a big one.
Because it's such a knee-jerk reaction where you don't even realize you're doing it.
You don't.
So it's like, okay, even as if it's the picking up the phone, like even if it's after you've picked it up and you realize and you're like, okay, I can put it down.
Yes.
And take a minute.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. That is so good. And it doesn't take a lot of time.
It doesn't.
A pause. It's like a few seconds.
Yes.
Even if it's like a minute or two, it doesn't take very long to do.
And then one thing that our counselor had shared with me was learning to name so once you start to do that, learning to pause and name the emotions. What are the emotions that come up often? You know, like what are the emotions that you feel like the most frequent in a week? And then I was able to name like 2 or 3. And I was like, man, I always feel guilt and I always feel, exhausted and overwhelmed. Like those would be the 2, major ones.
Yeah.
And anyway, but so she helped me kind of navigate, like, where does that come from, And I think for me, it was definitely a childhood thing of just like, I carried a lot of my mother's burdens and my father's burdens.
Yeah.
And so I've always just felt like I was ill-equipped because I started carrying them very young when I shouldn't have been carrying them.
Right.
And so now everything in life has made me feel overwhelmed. And even though I now am probably better equipped to handle a lot of the things, but I just, because I had started so early and my childhood was kind of robbed, I wasn't. Yeah.
Oh, that's so good to be able to identify the common feelings. And then I like that, like where it came from, because that's even last week when Miles was gone. That's what I'm just thinking of now, is how the feelings of that anger coming up. And it was a lot of what you're just saying, like realizing that's coming from the weight of how much responsibility I'm carrying, because it's now all on me with him gone. And that is so familiar. That's from when 11 years old, when that started, of just taking on so much of that, the responsibilities at a really young age, where I'm like, feel so angry, then it can't, like the trapped and like all the stuff. So I had to work through like, okay, I'm not 11 anymore.
Yes.
I'm not 11, but this is what I'm having, and what, like, things need to change. Like I do need more support than what I thought I did.
Yes.
So what is that going to look like? Because I can take action. I can speak up now.
Yes.
I couldn't at 11, but it's hard to, it's hard. It does help though to identify that.
It does.
Understand.
Well, because I think then it separates the magnitude of the emotion, where when we can pause and do like what you're saying, like you did, was, okay, this is historical, and historically this was a very big emotion because I didn't have a voice.
Yes.
But I get to speak now, and not only do I get to speak now, but I now know what I need to be able to make this less of a thing.
Yeah.
Where like when we bury it, we've not grown at all as a person. We've just added more shame. That's all. Like we're just building this tower of shame.
Yes.
It just hovers over us, and it doesn't build up who we are.
Yeah, exactly. And it will come bubble up again.
Yes.
It'll come out in all these crazy ways.
Yes.
So it's not like it actually stays put down. And then we can't understand, like, why did I react over my kid, dropping a pencil? And it's just like, oh, well, if we can trace it back.
Yes.
Once we do, then we don't have to keep repeating it over and over again.
Yes.
Yeah. So how can we practically begin to live from a place of worth instead of trying to prove that we're enough? This is the last question I have. Well, actually, I have one more after that, but yes, sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, that's a really good question, because it's hard to do, especially, but I think it's like you and I have talked about this before, like whenever you start doing stuff that you need, like getting a babysitter because you want to go have just time for yourself, to get a pedicure or to shop or to whatever, just truly time for you. And feeling those guilty feelings that come up of like, but I feel like for this 3 hours, I should go to the grocery store. I should do these things. But it's learning again to say, okay, that feeling is coming from whatever place, and I actually do deserve, and I am worth going and doing this for myself for 3 hours. And particularly what helped me is like, there's 180 hours in a week. So if there's that many, is that right?
I think that's right.
Yeah. 180 hours in a week. If I only take 3 for myself, I'm okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually a good perspective.
Yes. And like everybody else is too,
Yeah.
And I guess maybe this helps now because my kids are a little bit older than like the, 2 under 2. But like, I'm like, they don't actually need me around all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? they don't need me hovering. They don't need me. They don't need me.
Yes.
And so what they need is when they're having needs and their emotions are coming up, they need a safe place to land. And so if I am equipped for that, then I feel like that's the best. Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question, but like, I feel like that's more how we can begin to just, it's naming it and then letting it go. Like this is an example, but like, I'm trying to think, this just happened in the last week of what exactly happened, but something that I had wanted, I got, and I was so excited and so joyful, just like, oh yes, like this is it.
Yes.
And then not long after that, it was like the day after, I was going somewhere and I was having all these like very intense fears about like my kids, like something's going to happen to them tonight. I just know it is. I know it is. And I was in the car with myself and Kevin, and we're driving, and I'm like, oh my God. It's like, I could just feel it. I was like, oh, I'm freaking out. And I just paused and I was like, why am I feeling this? And I was like, oh, I know why. Because I got something that I desired yesterday.
Oh, wow.
And that's what I've noticed for my own self. I'm not saying this is the case for everybody, but whenever my desires start to get met, fear immediately follows in some form. And it's an overwhelming fear.
Yeah.
Like something's going to happen to my kids because I did something for myself.
Yes.
And so then I was able to be like, oh, that's what it is. And then just let it go. And then I didn't feel it the rest of the night.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. It's so liberating when you can identify. And again, that's why it's so important to name it and to recognize where this is and connect the dots basically.
Yes.
On what happened. And that does hit on this like sense of worth, right? Okay, like this was a desire I had. I chose to take the action. I actually got the thing.
Yes.
But then I feel like the lie comes in of like, oh, but you're really kind of unworthy of that. And so because you got it, something terrible is going to happen to yourself. Like just to get to hear that and be like, oh, and even is this a common narrative that comes up? Like, and is that a pattern? Because it's not even that it will never come up again if we like do this enough, right? But it's that we recognize it and we have a very short relapse.
Yes.
It's that relapse gets shorter and shorter.
Yes, that's exactly it. Yeah. Because then it was just, rather than it overtaking. And I feel like this is what I often see too with moms is one fear it's like a snowball and it just starts rolling downhill. And then they're just like, I can have this picture of we had a neighbor that we lived across the street from when we were in Texas. And I can remember just like having conversations with her and just how much fear was driving all of her mothering, because she wasn't able to stop and pause and name where things were coming from. So like everything she was afraid of, like I remember saying to Kevin, because I thought at the time the solution was that I kept working because she stayed at home, right? So I was like, oh, I have to keep working because if not, I'm going to be at home watching the news all day like she does. And I'm going to end up being like this fearful, crazy person.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the solution. But, it was more just like learning to name it. And so that's how I'm not driven by fear.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That is so good. And that's such a good example too. Just because it's very relatable. Very relatable. Very relatable. Oh, thinking of myself.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Too. Yeah. Well, I'm sure that there's a mom listening who feels exhausted and is weighed down by guilt and is just wondering if her life could ever look different. If you could look her in the eyes and offer a word of encouragement to her, what would you say?
Gosh, I mean, I think, I want to give some like big, wise answer. But I think it's honestly like learning to connect with God more than anything. Like God created us in this specific way. And so learning to reach out to him in that vulnerable place of like, God, Lord, I am guilt ridden and I do not know where to go from here. Connecting with him first, I would say would be huge. And then in that place of feeling like this is never going to end, knowing that once I'm connected to him, he's going to help me to connect with myself so I can get out of this dark place.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's so good. Like he'll give you the guidance.
Yes.
And the next step of whatever that looks like.
Yes.
Because he's the ultimate, he is the one who will he knows.
Yeah,
And he knows the path that will lead us out.
Yes.
And then it's us being willing to say yes and risk that vulnerability of if it is connecting with someone.
Yes.
Then we say yes and do it.
Yes. I know the only reason I hesitate is because I'm like, so often we view God from our broken place. And so if we had a father or even a mother, right, that did not guide us, which most of us didn't, but like did not guide us in the way that we should, we can often view God in that way. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it can be hard to hear and lean into that.
I love it. Thank you. Yeah. That's really good. Well, okay, Jackie, I really appreciate you getting to share your heart and your story today because it matters and it's so relatable. And again, the things that you have spoken to, I don't think many people will have heard anybody else say that, but yet they feel these things. And so it's really powerful. And I'm just so glad because you really do. You have so much wisdom and insight and you're willing to just shed light on these areas that have been in the dark for far too long. Where could people find you if they want to connect with you or just learn more even about your home staging business?
Well, it's still in progress, but
love it. Yes.
It will be thehomedesignco.com is where you could find the home staging and design business that will hopefully be launching here very soon. And then you can find me on Facebook or Instagram.
Awesome.
I wish I could tell you.
Yeah. Jackie, is your full name?
Yes.
Okay. Jackie
I think
Gainey.
so. Jackie Gainey, I think.
Yes.
That's a great question because I don't do hardly any social media. So you'll find me there, but you won't find me often.
On it. Active.
Yes.
Okay.
No, I won't be on it and active. So yeah, probably the website will be the best once it's up and running.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Great. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Well, if today's episode resonated with you, please share it with another mom who needs to hear it. You are definitely not alone in this. Healing begins when we stop pretending and we start getting real together. Thanks for listening to Let's Get Real. If something from today's episode resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a conversation. Until next time, remember that in order to heal, we have to get real. Talk to you soon, friend.